Hello, my name is Graham Fitkin. I'm a composer and I'm going to just give you a brief introduction to my piece Humphrey Davy, The Age of Aspiration, which will be performed at the Three Choirs Festival in 2023. It's a work for choir, orchestra, solo countertenor, narrator, and it involves a small cameo but important role for children's choir in the middle. It focuses on the life and works of the scientist Humphrey Davy and the social changes that were going on during that era, and if you like, the legacy of those changes which are still with us today. Humphrey Davy was a chemist, and he was around at the time when science began to lose the shackles of magic and alchemy with which it had been associated for years, and take on a more important and prominent role in society, which of course has continued through to today. He is best known, I suppose, for his invention, the miner's lamp, which was a simple but ingenious solution to the rather explosive qualities of methane gas underground. But he did so much more than that. He isolated various elements, including potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, borium, strontium, and so on. He was a pioneer in electrochemistry. He was an artist, a poet. He was one of those true polymaths who did everything. But one of the things which really fascinated me was his work that he did at the beautifully titled Pneumatic Institute in Bristol. He was there for a few years and he investigated gases and the effect that gases might have on a human. And in order to do this, of course, he had to inhale them. So he started with the more inert ones, such as oxygen, which was fine, hydrogen, that was all right, carbon dioxide, less good perhaps, and then he got on to carbon monoxide, from which he nearly died. And when he was inhaling these, he would make scrupulous notes on what was happening to him and his body at the time. And some of the most wonderful texts that we have of these investigations are the ones he did on nitrous oxide. He had a sealed container made for him in which he would sit and have quarts of nitrous oxide pumped into the container, and then while he was in there, he would make notes on what his temperature was doing, his heart rate, how his skin was feeling and how his mind was feeling. He would continue these notes as more quarts of nitrous oxide were pumped in, and he would continue the notes out afterwards. And some of these notes go into the sort of realm of poetic extemporization, having started off as very detailed notes. So they're wonderful texts. And in a sense, this is one of the reasons that the word aspiration is in the title, because that is part of the reasoning behind the piece. But this was also the time of the first industrial revolution. Increased trade, increased productivity, technology, new technologies. The change, if you like, from an agrarian-based system to a more market-driven economy. So if you like, it was an age of aspiration. And Davy noticed the potential that science has to revolutionise our lives. But, and I think he was right in this, in order to assess the effects on the human mind that it has, he thought we should examine the parallel history of society to trace the results and the potential progress. Because you change something in one field and it affects something in another field. And that might be good and it might be bad. And it's this intertwining which I find fascinating. I find it fascinating on a macro level straight away that the central tenet of science is to explore, to go further, develop further, advance, inhale more, if you like. And that's mirrored by capitalism's ideology to expand more, to produce more, consume more, growth, growth, growth. So alongside the increased wealth and productivity, there will be downsides. And in Davy's era, slave labour, child deaths in the workplace were a start. But that same relationship between society, science, culture and politics remains very much with us today. So, if you like, this work tries to reflect some of the breadth of Davy's work within the context of the time. So there are these factual texts from Davy's own notes, some of them from the gas experiments. There are texts from the pressing issues of the day, including Wilberforce's famous abolition speech to the House of Commons. And I hope the intertwining of these shows the ramifications of how what happened then in that era are still with us now, today. So that's a sort of rough idea of the piece. Humphrey Davy, The Age of Aspiration. Thank you.